Vince. He is a local Fair Oaks resident who grows amazingly cool things on his property, and I can't wait for him to tell us about it. Take it away, Vince.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good morning. So, my name is Vince, and I live in Fair Oaks, about 5 minutes away. I'm excited today to kind of share with you guys the...
Speak up, Vince. I'm going to try to get a microphone.
Yep. I'm excited to share with you guys today the different fruits that I'm growing in my backyard, in my front yard. So, I live on about 1/3 of an acre, right off of Hazel and Madison. This is a kind of overview of our house. Kind of a weird shaped lot. We have a really small front yard and a really big backyard. We moved in March 2019, me and my wife and my 2 kids. We have 2 boys, Henry and Dominic. And so, yeah, we have 1/3 of an acre lot. You know, when we were looking for houses, we wanted something with a really big yard. The house wasn't as important as the yard to me. You know, we first looked in like Roseville, Elk Grove, Rockland, those areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, we first looked in like Roseville, Rockland areas, very small lots, really nice houses, but that's not what we were looking for. We actually found a perfect house for us. So yeah, a couple of things that we have on our property are a greenhouse, shade structure. We've got a chicken coop, front yard. We converted from a lawn to a food forest. We've got the backyard food forest. There's rainwater collection. We have composting. We just put solar in on the roof, and we do annual veggies. So on the whole property, we've got over 150 different fruit trees and perennial plants. You know, the main goal of buying this property was to grow as much of our own food as possible. And also, another thing that I'm really fascinated by is just collecting rare genetics, different species. You know, when you go to the big box nurseries, they sell kind of all the same thing. So I've spent a lot of time just kind of searching out the more rare, kind of special varieties of each type of fruit that I grow. So a little backstory on me and kind of why I'm inspired to do this is I've been a meat cutter at Safeway for 18 years. I'm now the meat manager at the Safeway right here on Hazel and Madison. So yeah, working in the food industry kind of really opened my eyes to all the negative things that go on in the food industry. I think the main thing with the way our food is grown is it's all about money and profit. It's not about flavor or nutrient content or being organic or you know, regenerative. So yeah, that really inspired me to start growing my own food, because I just don't trust what happens to our food before it gets to us. Some inspiration. A few of the books that really inspired me are One Straw Revolution. Gaia's Garden is a great book to start with, and Edible Forest Gardens. Some YouTube channels that I've binge watched are Permadynamics and Happen Films. I'd highly recommend the Happen Films channel. There's a lot of just stories on people like me that are just trying to grow their own food and be more sustainable. So, what is a food forest? A food forest is a designed ecosystem that mimics natural forests but focuses on producing food and medicine. Food forests integrate a variety of edible and beneficial plants into different layers, from tall canopy trees to low growing ground covers. And this is from Gaia's Garden. So a food forest is it's something where, you know, in a natural forest you have different layers of canopy. So in a food forest you're basically just replacing these non-food producing layers with something that produces food or medicine. you know, at your tall tree layer, you'll have avocados, loquats, white sapote. Those can grow really big and large. Underneath that, you'll have, you know, cherimoya, citrus, bananas. You know, the shrub layer, you can have blueberries, jaboticaba, gummy berries. On the herb layer, you've got comfrey, yarrow, lemongrass. And the ground cover layer, sweet potatoes, strawberries, passion fruit, grapes, and kiwi on the vine layer, and then in the root layer, carrots, onions, and garlic. So basically, in this way, you know, a traditional commercial orchard is going to have large spacing between the fruit trees. There's going to be just monocrops of just all the same crop. There's a lot of disadvantages to that. One is definitely pests. If you're only growing one type of fruit tree and you get a pest that attacks it, it's gonna attack all of them. So diversity is kind of the biggest thing in my garden. I try to plant as much stuff as I can in a small space. You'll have less of a yield if compared to like traditional kind of row cropping, but you'll have more diverse fruit, and you'll actually have a longer harvest window, because instead of having everything harvested at once, you'll be able to spread that out throughout time. And I'll show some examples in my garden of this. So the next thing is microclimates. So a lot of the stuff that I'm growing in my yard, the only way that I can get it to survive is by planting it in the right microclimate. So microclimates are areas of your yard or property that are sheltered from intense wind, sun, and frost. Some common things that can create microclimates are walls, structures, or other larger trees, changes in elevation, and bodies of water like creeks, ponds, or lakes. Plants and trees that are sensitive to these natural forces can either survive or die based on where you plant them. So spend time observing your yard throughout the year and notice the areas that get little to no frost or are protected from sun during the hottest time of the day. Understanding microclimates helps you plant the right species in the right places for better success. I think this is probably the single most important thing when it comes to growing more sensitive species. This is an example of microclimates in my yard. So on the left, you can see this is a frosty morning, and you can see the part to the right is closer to my house, and so there's a little bit of heat coming off of the house, and that I basically don't get any frost in this area to the right. So I can plant more sensitive things like mangoes or cherimoyas or anything that's frost sensitive. And then you can obviously see in the back the comfrey is wilting from the frost, but so yeah, that's something you want to look for in your yard. When there's a frosty morning, you can go around the yard and just kind of see the spots that don't get frost. Usually it's underneath a larger tree, closer to a wall, closer to your house. The image on the right is a starfruit tree. These are not a common tree that you would see in Northern California. These are something you'd see in Hawaii or something. But this is planted in a corner of my yard that's surrounded by two sides of it have like a brick wall basically. And so it's sheltered from wind, from frost, and then also in the hottest part of the day it's shaded. So this is a perfect little microclimate for this starfruit. If I were to plant this just in the middle of my yard, this tree would not make it. But because it's planted in this microclimate, it's actually thriving and doing really well. So now I'll talk about the front yard. So on the left, this is what the house looked like when we moved in. It was just a boring lawn that I'm really not into lawns. It's a waste of water, I think, and it's a waste of nutrients, and people use a lot of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides to keep their lawn healthy, and it doesn't produce any food for you. So, and I don't think that visually appealing either. So on the right is 4 years later. This is a food forest right here. There's bananas, white sapotes, there's citrus, guavas, you know, a lot of understory herbs and beneficial plants that attract pollinators. So yeah, this is a thriving ecosystem on the right, and on the left is basically a dead landscape, in my opinion.
Bananas grow here?
Yes, definitely. I have a few slides showing them. We'll get to that. So this is when we first started the front yard conversion. I actually hired a company called Mantis Gardens to help me with this. This is kind of when I first started getting into all this stuff. I prefer to just hire a professional company. I actually talked to about 6 or 8 different landscaping companies trying to explain to them what I was going to do, and most of them looked at me like I was crazy. And so Mantis Gardens, David, he was really awesome. He understood the vision, and he helped me to bring it to life. So, you know, we first scraped the front lawn off. We basically took about 6 to 8 inches of soil out from the whole area, off the top, and threw it away because it was full of Bermuda grass. And so that center part that you can see being dug out is what will become the rainwater catchment swale. And the picture on the right, the rain chain will come down from the roof into that little square black box, and then it gets piped into this center of the yard, which is dug out, and it'll collect rainwater, and it'll slowly seep into the ground instead of just washing off down the street. This is the next step in the process, was adding compost onto the top, and then adding the irrigation, and then a nice little stone pathway that Mantis Gardens put together. You can see in the top right, that's the irrigation method we have up front, which is Netafim drip lines. So this uses a lot less water than overhead sprinklers and just common lawn irrigation. I actually noticed, you know, my water bill was actually cut in half the following year from installing this. So this is not a drought tolerant landscape, but it uses a lot less water than a traditional lawn, and it's producing food and medicine. So this is once the project was complete on the left, and we covered all the compost with a heavy dose of wood chips that you can get for free from chipdrop.com. And we've got all the various fruit trees and young pollinator plants and support plants. You can see the rocks in the middle are actually dug out. That's the rainwater collection swale. And then there's a before and after picture of the front yard project.
Were your neighbors asking you what you were doing out there?
Oh yeah, definitely. If you look at my neighbors' yards, though, they're mostly either a dead lawn or a lawn. So yeah, I try to be nice to my neighbors. I don't push my views on them, but they definitely were very curious with what's going on, and some of them are more excited about it than others. Obviously, the number one comment is always, this is going to attract rats. Which, you know, living in the city, we already have rats everywhere. There's definitely ways you can mitigate that. I would much rather deal with trying to mitigate the rat issue than not growing my own food. So this is, let's see, this was 2022 when this project was completed. Then this is May 2023 on the left, which is just a year later. You can see all the pollinator plants are really filling in, lots of flowers.
That was really good.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, I was surprised how fast it all grew in. Pretty exciting.
So will it be overgrown soon?
What's that?
Will it be overgrown?
A lot of these are perennials that you see growing in, so they die back in the winter, or you cut them back. On the picture on the right, the big green, the short bushy plants, those are comfrey. Those only grow from spring to fall. And so in the winter, almost all that ground cover is kind of gone. And I actually chop it down and mulch it, and then cover it up with more wood chips, and it breaks down and creates compost. So if you dig into this dirt, it's pure black compost now. In the winter you just see trees kind of, and then it's just wood chips. That's a typo, that's actually May 2024 on the right. But you can see the bananas, I mean, they grow on really fast. Yeah, lots of cool stuff. June 2024, another view. The bananas and everything really filling in. So on the left, this is July 2024. This is kind of an example of how close things are planted in the front yard. I've done a real mix of kind of exotic, rare fruit trees, but I've also interplanted natives. So we've got like the native western redbud, the silver bush lupin, hummingbird sage. Those are native plants that I've kind of included into the landscape. That's something I'm really into, is not just growing rare exotic stuff, but also growing natives to kind of, give some benefits to the native wildlife. Yerba mate in the back corner and pawpaw on the left, but you can see everything's planted within 3 to 5 feet of each other. The picture on the right is the rainwater collection swale after a rain, and that water will only sit in there for less than a day. It's never overflowed, even on our biggest storms. But it's something that really excites me, because instead of all that water just rushing off the property, going down the street into the sewer, we're keeping it on site in the front yard. It's slowly seeping in and replenishing the water table.
Did you break through the hard pan to do that? Did you get underneath the hard pan or above?
I haven't ever hit hard pan in my yard. It's extremely sandy and loamy. I feel like you could probably dig a swimming pool with a shovel at my house. So I got really lucky. Which a lot of these rare fruit trees, they like sandy soil, so there's a lot of things that thrive. So yeah, the rainwater collection swale is really exciting to me. Over time, as we have droughts, the water table slowly dries out lower and lower and lower. So year after year, I'm replenishing that water table in the front yard. Theoretically, after maybe 5 to 10 years of doing this, I could start to slowly scale back the irrigation as the trees have really started to grow in. Their taproot has started to go a lot deeper, and that water table is starting to get replenished. So I'll be able to scale back irrigation, and those trees will be tapped into the water table below. This is some wildlife that has come into our yard since doing this.
AKA not a rat.
Yeah. We didn't have any lizards in the front yard, or any worms in the dirt, or any beneficial bugs that I noticed. I never saw any hummingbirds or anything like that until we kind of did this conversion.
And you didn't bring that in, you just showed up.
Oh yeah, they love it. Couple pictures of some flowers in the front yard. The one on the left is the native silver bush lupin, which is it's a native shrub that only lives for a few years, but it's actually a nitrogen fixing plant. And I'll talk about more nitrogen fixers as I go, but something really cool about nitrogen fixers are they're plants that take nitrogen out of the air, and they put the nitrogen into the soil and feed the other plants around it. So they're actually making the soil healthier as time goes on. And then these are African daisies on the right. Just a really pretty flower in the front yard. So this is the backyard food forest. Back in April of 2023, we basically cleared all the weeds, put a layer of compost about 2 to 3 inches across the whole area, and then we invited a bunch of friends to help us plant trees. And we got this all done in about 2 hours. We planted about 50 fruit trees. So this was a really exciting day.
Where did you source your fruit trees?
The fruit trees, I've sourced them all over. There's a lot of places. At the end, I'll show a slide with like some recommendations on online nurseries and then some local nurseries. But yeah, I've gotten them from everywhere. Green Acres, all sorts of different places, online, from friends, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. So yeah, this was a really special day to us. It was a big help for us, so I didn't have to personally plant 50 trees. And yeah, it was a really good vibe. Everybody that came was really excited. It was something that a lot of people were really thrilled to be a part of. There's some friends that came from San Jose, some friends came from Santa Cruz, a lot of local friends too. And so yeah, it was really awesome. The picture on the left is once we started putting the mulch in the backyard food forest, and then the irrigation lines. And then on the right is kind of the end result with a little fence that we put in.
Is that just like round 12-inch drip line that you're doing there?
That is, I believe that's Netafim, and it's got drippers every 12 inches, and it's like, I think, a gallon per hour. So it's a very slow drip. And it's running on both sides of the tree line, so you can see there's a tree line, and it runs on both sides. Excuse me. These are a couple of trees 2 years after planting. On the left is a peach tree. This is a multi-grafted peach tree, so there's like 4 different peaches on this one. And on the right is a mulberry. So this just shows kind of how much these can grow in just 2 years. These trees were probably only about this tall when I planted them, and they've really taken off. Here's some more pictures later on. So on the left, you'll see a bunch of green stuff that's growing almost as tall as the fence. And in the middle of the picture is a lemon tree, and then that's the tree line. And on both sides, those are Mexican sunflowers. So this is a perennial sunflower that does not grow from seed, it only grows from cuttings. And we've planted them on each side of the tree lines for a couple different reasons. One is they can grow extremely fast, so they can provide shade for the young fruit trees that are very sensitive to full sun, like avocados, white sapote, even some citrus. And then we also, on the right, you'll see we chop them down, and we basically just lay them on the ground and mulch them into the soil. Mexican sunflowers have more nitrogen pound per pound than chicken manure. So this is basically growing our own fertilizer, and it's also shading the trees. And they flower, which bumblebees and hummingbirds love.
What's the botanical name?
This is Tithonia diversifolia.
Yes.
And this is, like I said, it's a perennial. It's pretty frost sensitive. They die back in the winter, but they usually grow back from their root zone if you've got it mulched pretty well. And there's even been some studies, you can find some sources online that have showed evidence that this Mexican sunflower exudes chemicals from the roots that suppress creeping grasses. So these can actually
Those are the magic words.
these can actually stop the spread of Bermuda grass if you interplant them throughout your fruit trees.
Wyatt, you are helpful given.
I should have included a picture, but I do have a picture of one row where the Mexican sunflower is planted and one row without, and the row without is covered in Bermuda grass. And the rows that have their Mexican sunflower, there's none. You can actually see it in this picture. If you look kind of to the top left, you can see grass on the ground over there, and over here there's none.
Okay, so where did you get those?
Yeah.
I bought these as unrooted cuttings on Etsy. Some people won't ship it to you, but some people will. And you can root them, and once you get them growing, you can easily propagate them.
Can you grow them from seed? I didn't.
There's a few different Tithonias. The Tithonia diversifolia has non-viable seeds. So there's other Mexican sunflowers that do produce seeds, and those seeds will fall and they'll sprout up everywhere. This specific one, the seeds do not germinate, so it's only propagated from cuttings.
So if someone says they're selling you seeds, don't buy them.
If it's Tithonia diversifolia,
Yeah.
I wouldn't, yeah. But there is other Tithonias that do produce seeds. So this is an example in the backyard food forest of how close we've been planting our trees. On the left, you can see there's fruit trees and support trees planted like every couple feet. The first tree on the left in the bottom right corner is a peach tree. The next tree up is a white alder, and then there's an almond tree. So the white alder tree that's in the middle of those two trees is a native nitrogen fixing tree. And the only purpose of that is to help build the soil health with the nitrogen fixation. It grows really quickly, so it can provide shade for the young sensitive trees. And then you can mulch it. You can cut the branches and just basically use it as a soil building.
What ground cover do you have down there?
I had wood chips, and then I had some organic straw that I was using in my veggie garden, and I bought too much, so I kind of just threw it all out there. And that's one of the key things that I do, is just trying to cover the soil. And I don't have in any of the garden spaces, there's no bare soil. It's all covered with some sort of mulch, which slowly breaks down. You have to add more mulch every year. So on the right, this is extremely dense planting. In the middle, there's an avocado seedling. It's not very happy right now, but it's alive. I took this picture this morning, and it's starting to push out new growth. And on the left of it is a white alder, and on the right is a peach tree. And the reason these trees are planted so close is because the white alder and the peach tree grow extremely fast, and they're gonna shade the avocado, which avocados don't like full sun when they're young. The peach tree, they're only gonna be at their peak fruit production for about 10, 15, maybe 20 years. And the avocado is gonna live for 50 to 100 years. So as that avocado is growing slowly and getting stronger and can handle the elements more, the peach and the white alder are kind of sheltering it, protecting it. As time goes on, when the peach has reached its peak and the white alder has been cut out, the avocado will start to fill in that space. That's a seedling, just from the store. Just a big avocado they have at the store. So, and,
Are you going to graft it?
so my avocados, I have about half of them I've grafted, and then the other half I'm just letting them grow, and we'll see if the fruit is good or not. To me, that's more exciting because you might find a new variety of avocado that's really special, and you might not. But yeah, there's been some really good stories online on like the Facebook avocado groups of people finding really good fruit from seedlings. So it's a chance, but I'm willing to take it to find something cool and new. So this is our chicken coop. We've got 12 birds in this little run. Really nice coop that my buddy Danny built for us. And yeah, this is something that the kids love. I love it. I love eating eggs. I love animals. So it's been really cool to have chickens. He's got no free time, so I can't even get him to come finish my projects.
Oh.
These are some of our birds. Like I said, right now we've got 12. On the picture on the left, you can see in the chicken run, I put a really thick layer of wood chips, and that keeps down the smell from all the nitrogen being produced by them. This is called the deep litter method. So this is a way that you can basically make compost in place, and the chickens kind of do all the work. They're scratching stuff. We're giving them food scraps every day. Yeah, this is kind of where all our food scraps go. It creates compost, and also they're creating eggs for us. So this is a really nice little closed loop system that we've created.
You let them free range in the food forest?
Eventually I will. I have a few times. I want to wait for most of the trees to get a lot bigger, because if there's little short trees, they like to pick at them. So, but my long-term goal is to create an opening on the back side of the coop where they can go into the food forest. And I'm sure they're gonna love that. They're always trying to escape. Here's some eggs from us. The picture on the left is like what we get in one day in the summer. like I said, I've got 2 kids, and me and my wife, we eat a lot of eggs. I eat eggs basically every morning for breakfast. Saves money, it's good for you. Yeah, it's awesome. If we had extra, we would. Real quick, I'll just talk about some propagation methods we use. Seedlings, grafting, cuttings. This is a way that I propagate seeds sometimes. You can do this with some species, but not all. I'll put a bunch of seeds in one pot, and once they all sprout, I'll separate them out like this, and then pot them from there. And this definitely saves a lot of space as opposed to having 100 pots at once. Then you can separate them later, pick the nicest ones, and plant them. This is some grafting that I've done. The picture on the left is a loquat, and it's got, I think, 8 different varieties of loquats that I grafted onto it. And then on the right is like a small plum tree that I just grafted this spring. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Scion Exchange, but the Sacramento Rare Fruit Growers does a Scion Exchange in January where you can basically go and get scions for free of all these different things, and you can graft them. So I had some seedlings, stone fruit seedlings, and planted those in the ground, and then the following year I grafted them. This is cuttings of mulberries. There's a bunch of different trees that I grow that you can propagate from cuttings. So I just placed them in wet soil and then covered the pot with some saran wrap to increase the humidity. And these will all root. You can see on the right they're starting to push growth. And then we'll later separate these, and these will all be mulberry trees that we'll be selling later on. This is some benefits of grafting. You can spread out your harvest. In this picture, for instance, you can see that if you have an early season apple, for instance, you could be harvesting apples in June, and then if you have mid-season, July, August, September. So if you have one variety of a fruit tree, you're going to harvest everything at once. And if you have a pretty big tree, that's going to be a lot of fruit. You're probably not going to be able to eat all of it or process all of it. So if you can graft different varieties to the tree, you can spread out that harvest window. You could have an early season, you harvest that first, then you have one branch that's mid-season, a couple weeks later you harvest that, a couple weeks later you harvest the late season, so you could really spread out your harvest over months instead of harvesting all at once. Grafted trees bear fruit much sooner. You can get cross-pollination from different varieties, so the different types will cross-pollinate, give you more fruit set. You can control the height of the trees, so if you graft to certain rootstocks, the rootstock will make the tree shorter or taller depending on the rootstock. Also kind of test resilience. And then it's a way to get an exact genetic copy of a tree. So some trees, if you grow from seed, for instance avocados, it won't be an exact copy when you grow from seed. So when you graft, you're going to have an exact same fruit from the tree that you took it from. So now we'll get into my favorite part, the fruit. So I'll start with bananas. So just a little bit about bananas. There we go. The Cavendish banana is the most commonly grown. That's if you're buying a banana from a grocery store, 95 to 99% of the time, the variety is Cavendish. But there's over 1,000 varieties of bananas in the world. Most of us have only eaten one type our whole life. Some really cool, different flavored bananas are like apple bananas, Namwa, blue Java, also known as ice cream, Goldfinger. Some of these bananas are considered dessert bananas, so they're very sweet, very mushy. And the reason that Cavendish is so widely grown is because, when large farms and corporations are looking to grow fruit or veggies, they're not looking to grow what tastes the best. They're looking to grow what can be grown, commercially at scale, something that can be harvested and shipped. So something that doesn't go bad fast. And they're harvesting everything premature. So yeah, there's a whole world of different varieties that we're not accustomed to because they just don't ship well or they don't grow as well. So bananas are heavy feeders. You can't overfeed a banana or over fertilize it. They need a lot of fertilizer to produce fruit. There's probably two most common mistakes people make if they're trying to grow bananas. One is they're not feeding it enough fertilizer, and two is they're leaving too many little pups on it. So that a banana shoots out multiple plants. You only want to keep one or two, otherwise all the small ones will suck energy from the main one.
What kind of fertilizer do you use?
On my bananas, I use like chicken manure, and then I get like organic dry amendments. I like to use like organic things, but you can also. Some people use like some people will make a banana circle. Well, they'll plant bananas in a circle, and then in the middle, they'll just throw all their food scraps, all their yard clippings, and just pile it in the center. You can throw everything at them, and they'll love it.
Vince, what kind of sun exposure for banana?
Bananas, they like full sun. They'll grow in full sun.
The summer sun here?
So if you plant them in the spring, like right around now, they will love the full sun. Yep. As long as you water them, they'll go for it. They will grow extremely fast. They take about 18 to 24 months to fruit from when you plant them. And they will lose the leaves in the winter. They'll look pretty ugly and ragged, but they'll grow back in the spring. And yeah, they create a beautiful foliage. It gives the yard a tropical vibe. Here's some pictures on the left. This is kind of how bananas grow with all the pups grown up. So this is a plant that you'd want to separate some of these smaller plants out. You'd only want to keep maybe two to three stems. Otherwise, that main stem in the middle, which is going to be the one that fruits first, all these smaller ones will be pulling energy from it, and it won't be able to fruit. And that's the thing with bananas too. That main one in the middle will fruit, and then that stem will die, and you'll cut it down, and then the next biggest one will fruit next.
So they only fruit once on a stem?
One stem fruits once. Yep. So the picture on the right is kind of the view of the bananas. It's called corm. There's a central corm, so it's basically like just a round root, and the top part is kind of the banana growing out, and then you'll see on the side, on the right, there's a little part poking out. That's the next banana that'll start to grow out. So it doesn't travel, it doesn't really travel or spread. It just stays in one little spot, and yeah, you separate them from the central corm, and you can just plant them. This is some pictures of some pups that were separated. The ones on the left came from my friend Michael's house. Those are about 5 or 6 feet tall. You can't really tell from the picture, but those, we potted them all up, and they all survived, and they all will become a new banana patch.
Wow.
So if you plant one banana, you will have a never-ending supply of banana plants.
Cool.
This is kind of like the flowering cycle of a banana. On the left, you'll see the small, short, stubby leaf in the very center at the top. That's called the flag leaf. So when a banana is about to flower, it'll shoot out a really short, stubby leaf like that, and it gets really thick towards the top of the plant. And that's the flower starting to come out. The picture on the right is the beginning stages of the flower coming out. It's a pretty exciting moment when they start to flower. Picture on the left is just barely starting, and then on the right is kind of farther along in the process. These are some other of my friends that have successfully grown bananas in the Sacramento area. On the left, this is grown in Rancho Cordova by my friend Dustin. This is a Namwa banana. And then on the right, this is a Cavendish, I believe, grown by my friend Michael, who's sitting right over there. This is close to downtown Sac in the Topple Park area. So this is just some proof and evidence that you can fruit bananas here.
Do the different varieties fruit at different times of the year, or have you figured out what determines when the banana is going to fruit?
That's a good question. So bananas will fruit whenever they want to. Right? they come from the tropics,
Yeah.
so they don't understand winter and that. They fruit when they become mature enough to fruit, so it's pure luck. It takes, how long does it take to fruit, Michael? The fruit, like 3 months?
Depending on the variety, 3 to 6 months.
Takes them 3 to 6 months for the fruit to mature. So if your banana plant starts flowering in like October, you're probably not gonna harvest bananas. So it's all about luck, really.
Yeah, that's what mine fruited, you know, in the fall, and they got pretty well beat up over the winter, so.
Yep. This one that I was showing off was in the fall, and it actually never ripened.
Yeah.
So we actually chopped it and threw it to the chickens.
You can't protect it.
In my yard, I don't really protect stuff. I try to just, if it's gonna make it, it's gonna make it, and if it doesn't, then I try to figure out why it didn't, and I try to do it differently. I try to be low maintenance as I can. So yeah, that's bananas. Next up is pawpaws. These are a really cool fruit. These are native to the eastern United States. They're a member of the Annona family, which has kind of more tropical fruits that grow in South America, like cherimoya, soursop, atamoya. So the pawpaw is the only member of the Annona family that grows in temperate climates like ours, natively. It can handle snow. It's hardy from zones 5 to 9. I know of people that are growing pawpaws in Nevada City and Grass Valley area. The flavors in pawpaws can range from tropical banana, mango custard, to caramel and espresso. Very flavorful. They like partial to full shade when they're young. A lot of people, before we grew pawpaws, a lot of people told us they wouldn't survive here in Sacramento because it's too hot. But these are actually fruits grown in Fair Oaks. I found this guy on Craigslist selling fruit, and I was blown away. I linked up with him, and he actually lived like 3 blocks from me. So yeah, he was the first person that I really saw kind of prove that you can grow pawpaws here. They have a very short shelf life, so once they're ripe, you have to eat them within a few days. That's why you'll never see these being sold at a store. This is a fruit where you either have to kind of grow it yourself or know someone that's growing it in order to try one. This is the guy in Fair Oaks. These are his trees. His name's Jeff. The picture on the left, I mean, you can see they're a good 10, 15 feet taller than his house. And you can see how shaded that area is. It's under the canopy of some taller oaks. And yeah, they're doing really well, pretty close to the house. This is some more pictures from Michael's yard. It's a pawpaw on the left, it's grafted, and then a fruit on the right. Then this is a seedling pawpaw on the left that I have at my house that came from Jeff, the guy I met off Craigslist. He gave me some seedlings from his tree, so this is one that I have planted, and I've since grafted like 4 varieties onto it. And then this is a fruit, just a picture from the internet. That's what the inside of a pawpaw looks like. Very creamy, very soft and juicy. You don't eat the seeds. You want to spit them out. The inside of the seeds is actually toxic, but the seeds are extremely hard. So even if you did swallow one, you would pass it through your body, and it wouldn't hurt you. But I've read in some cultures that they actually crush up the seeds and use them for like managing lice and other things. So it's definitely something you gotta be careful of. Next one is avocados, native to Central America. You definitely want to shade cloth avocados when they're young. I've killed a lot of avocados, and it's always been in the summer, never in the winter. They do not like direct sun when they're young. They like a well-draining soil, but they can grow in clay. There's some more cold hardy varieties. A lot of the Mexican varieties are more cold hardy, so like Mexicola Grande, Bacon, Zutano, Stewart, Fuerte, and Surprise. And cool thing about avocados, they can hang on the tree for months and they won't ripen until they're picked. My brother-in-law's dad has a house in San Jose, and he basically has fruit on it all year round. and just picks the fruit whenever he wants to. With avocados, there's two types of flowers. There's a type A and a type B. You'll get fruit if you only have one type, but you'll have a lot more fruit if you've got both types because they flower at different times of day. So type A's the female flower will be in the morning and it'll be a male flower in the afternoon. It's the same flower, but it changes. And then type B is the opposite. So if you have both types, they'll be able to cross-pollinate more. This on the left, this is a Haas avocado that I have in my backyard that we planted a few years ago. This one has flowered a few times, but hasn't fruited yet for me. But I'm hoping that this year might be the first time. And then some more pictures from Michael's garden. This is a bacon avocado on the left in his front yard, and he's got very clay soil. There's a lot of people online that say not to plant avocados in clay soil, but this is some evidence that doesn't really matter. That they're actually loving it. The next fruit that I'm growing is called yang mai. This is kind of a new fruit that not a lot of people have heard about. This is native to Eastern Asia, especially China. It's been cultivated there for over 2,000 years. It tastes like a mix of a raspberry and a strawberry. They're one of my favorite fruits to just eat out of hand. You can just pop the whole thing in your mouth, chew on it, and then spit the seed out. Something really cool about these is they're an evergreen tree and they're a nitrogen fixer. So they produce food for us, and they're also making the soil better for the plants around it. Another cool thing about being evergreen is during winter, if you have larger evergreen trees, you can plant more frost-sensitive plants underneath them. So this is a really good kind of food forest, permaculture style plant. They're very cold tolerant. They can handle down to the low 20s or even lower. They actually get snowed on in their native environment in China, and they do well in full sun. So I'm in a Facebook group specifically for these fruit, and a lot of people are surprised that I have them growing in full sun in Sacramento. This is the price of yang mai fruit in California right now. This is $59.99 a pound. So there's only one commercial farm in the United States growing this fruit, and they started in Fremont, California, and now they have farms in Sebastopol and a few other areas. I'm not going to argue the justification of the price, but it is what it is. I love the fruit, that's why I'm growing it. Really exciting new fruit that not a lot of people have heard of, and it tastes really good, and it has a lot of purpose in the garden besides just the fruit. There we go. The yang mai gets like 20 to 30 feet tall. You can prune it. Any of these trees I grow at, you can keep them pruned to a shorter height. They like to grow bushy though. They like to shoot out branches everywhere. These are some more fruit. This is the box that it comes in when you get it from Cal Mai Yang Mai, which is the only commercial farm in the U.S. These are a couple different varieties that they grow on the right: Purple Pearl, Crystal, and Eastern Giant. And each one of these has a seed in it that you can plant and grow it yourself, so you don't have to pay $60 a pound.
Oh, you planted a seed?
I do not grow these. These are grown by Cal Mai, but when I buy the fruit, I plant every seed. This is what the fruit looks like on the left, on the inside. And there's a seed in the middle, and the seed is covered by this little shell. So if you plant the seed just as it is in the soil, it usually takes about 6 to 8 months to sprout. So if you can carefully crack the seed open and get the inner seed out, they can sprout within a few weeks. Here's the picture on the left is my largest yang mai that's in my front yard. The picture on the right is the new growth. It's really pretty red color. One thing about yang mai is you have to have male and female plants to get fruit. So this tree on the left, I've grafted a male branch onto it and some female branches. All of my trees are from seed, so you don't know if they're male or female until they flower. Next fruit up, which is one of my favorites, is jaboticaba. This is native to Brazil. It's known as the Brazilian grape. It's not a relative of grapes, but it's just a very similar fruit. This is a real understory tree. It does not like full sun. They grow extremely slow. These could take 10 to 12 years from seed to fruit. So this is a very slow growing tree. Something really cool is they flower on the stems and on the trunk. There we go. This is a large jaboticaba in San Jose at a park. This is probably 10 feet tall. This is probably like a 30-year-old tree. It's covered in fruit on the left. Yeah, one of my favorite fruits. Some smaller ones that I have grown at my house. On the right, that's a 4-year-old seedling. It's like 1.5 feet tall. So a banana in 6 months will get taller than your house. A jaboticaba in 4 years is 1.5 feet tall. So white sapote, this is a really good fruit to grow here. This does really well. This is one of my top 3 favorite fruits. It's a distant relative to citrus. It doesn't taste like it at all or look like it, but it's distantly related. It's got the same cold hardiness as a sweet orange. These can handle full sun and frost. The trees get really big. They produce huge crops of fruit. And yeah, one of my favorite fruits. This is gonna work. On the left, the guy Jeff that was growing the pawpaws in Fair Oaks, that's his white sapote tree. It's like 30 feet tall, 30 years old. And then on the right, that's a white sapote in my front yard. It's about 3 years old.
Is it producing yet?
No, not yet. These are fruits grown by Jeff from Fair Oaks. That's the inside of the fruit on the right. Very creamy. It's like banana flan. Very juicy. One of the sweetest fruits I've ever tried. So we'll get to my favorite fruit now, mangoes. So these are mangoes that I grew in my backyard on the right. So mangoes are native to South Asia and India. One of the oldest cultivated fruits in the world. Been grown for over 4,000 years. Mango trees can live for 100 years or more. These are really cool trees that will live a lot longer than us. They prefer sandy soil, similar to avocados. They're very frost sensitive. These will die during frost if they're not protected. So you need to plant them really close to a wall or a structure or something that's going to create that frost protection. If you remember that first picture I showed of the frosty area in my front yard and the not frosty area, that's kind of where you want to look to try to figure out where to plant one of these. The best method really is to grow from seed and then to graft them. And yeah, these are a couple mangoes in my yard. The one on the left is in the front yard. The one on the right is in the backyard. They're really cool because all the different varieties, they all have different color of flush of growth. It's one of the prettiest things in the garden is when the mangoes start growing. This is mango flowers in my backyard. These were potted mangoes. On the left, it's called a flower panicle. On the right, there's little fruits starting to form.
Were they potted so you could keep them in the greenhouse till they got bigger?
At that point, I was growing them in pots, and I had bought larger trees that were grafted, that were at fruiting age. Now, I don't really buy larger fruit trees at all. I am always kind of growing from seed. I find it's a much stronger, hardier plant when I grow it from seed, and the seed started here. Because when you're growing these ones that I bought potted, it's usually started in Florida, shipped to SoCal, then they move it up to NorCal. So these trees are getting confused. They think they're in this great climate in Florida, then they're going to SoCal, then they're coming here, and it shocks them so much that it can kill them. So now I grow a lot of them from seed.
What about bananas? How do you start them?
They're pups. So bananas, the picture before where they were separated, that's the only way to grow them really, is you cut off one of the plants, pokes up, and you can propagate it in it, and it will become a new plant.
And you just get them from a friend or?
Bananas, I've gotten a lot online. there's a lot of people on eBay and Etsy that sell small ones for like 15 bucks. And in 6 months, it'll be 8 feet tall if you put it in the ground.
I just saw a vendor, well, she had all kinds of plants, but at the downtown farmers market had a banana plant for sale for $40.
Ooh.
So she had a couple of them, so I'm sure she's just propagating the cups off of hers and then selling.
So mangoes, I started a Facebook group called Northern California Mango Growers Group. There was a Southern California Mango Growers Group, and I was in that first, and then I noticed this guy in Elk Grove made a post with his mango tree, and so that kind of inspired me to start a group based solely in like Northern California. So yeah, this guy in Elk Grove has this is a seedling mango in his front yard in Elk Grove, and it's covered in fruit. This was the first kind of image that kind of motivated me and inspired me and showed me that you can grow mangoes in
That's a
Northern California.
microclimate there. Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and the reason it's alive is because of how closely it's planted in this area of his front of his house. So there's no frost, there's no cold wind that's gonna kill it right there. That's the type of place that you'd be able to get one to survive
So
if
do
you
you
didn't put it in a greenhouse.
Sorry, do you pick mangoes then when they're green?
So mangoes don't ripen. Most mangoes don't really ripen on the tree. They ripen more on the counter. You can get them at different stages. They flower in the spring and then they're harvested in the late summer or fall. And then yeah, you counter ripen them for a few days. These are some more large mango trees in Northern California. This one on the left is in Fresno in a parking lot. The one on the right is in Redwood City. And you can notice these all, like the one on the left is right next to a wall. The one on the right had a structure built around it and ended up growing through it. But that's what kind of protected it when it was young. This is in Marysville, California. So this is right next to the Budget Inn, right on the main road when you drive into Marysville. So next time you drive through Marysville, look to the left and you'll see a huge mango tree. You can see, yeah, it does. You can see on the right how close it is to that structure and that sign. Maybe the sign, when it's lit at night, might produce a little bit of heat, but this is a little microclimate where this mango is able to survive. This is an example of why microclimate is so important. So on the left, there's no frost in this area of my yard, and this is a picture taken on the same day. On the right, that's in the backyard in a spot that got more frost, and that mango got hurt. Usually they'll still come back from the root zone, but yeah, this is an example of microclimate and why it's so important. Anonas, these are another rare fruit I grow. There's many types: cherimoyas, atamoyas, soursop. They can be very frost sensitive. These are an understory tree. They like to be in the shade. They don't really like full sun. This is an atamoya that I grew in my backyard. So you eat the inside flesh. It's very, very soft and juicy. This is a distant relative to pawpaws, but these are from the tropics. These are cherimoyas. This is grown by a lady in Granite Bay that I met on Facebook. Those are a bunch of cherimoya fruits from her tree. It's a very exciting fruit. This is probably this along with Weissapote is probably one of my top 3 favorite tasting fruits.
Do you need a male and female for the cherimoya?
No, but you do oftentimes need to hand pollinate them, just because this is not their native environment. So a lot of times they have to take pollen from one flower with a paintbrush and pollinate another one. Mulberries, they're not super rare, but they're one of my favorite fruits. They grow extremely fast. They don't have any issues with frost or the heat. Produce huge amounts of fruit. This is like the signature permaculture tree. So this is something that produces shade. The leaves can be fed to animals as fodder. The fruits can fall to the ground and animals can eat them, or people. We have a mulberry planted in our chicken run, so it kind of shades the chickens, and then the excess fruit will fall down, they can eat it. There's many different varieties, many different colors, and this is another tree that can live for 100 or more years. So these are some different colored fruits of mulberries. These are wild trees that we found growing on my friend's uncle's property. The one on the left, that all came from one tree, kind of cool multicolored fruits. And the one on the right is probably the most interesting mulberry fruit I've ever tried. It has flavors of coconut and pina colada. So that one on the right is a tree that I've actually taken a lot of cuttings from and rooted them, so we'll have a bunch of those available. Longan is another cool rare fruit. It's a relative of lychee, native to Asia, can handle light frost. And yeah, it's got a hard outer shell and a soft inner fruit. It's kind of the texture of like a grape. The picture on the left is a longan in my front yard that fruited. And then the picture on the right is another longan in my backyard. Doing pretty well. Planted really close to the wall for that frost protection. And then we're getting towards the end, but these are just some random fruits I've grown. These are chocolate persimmons on the left. This is a nice cantaloupe we grew in the front yard. I like cantaloupes and melons because you can have your fruit trees growing up into the high canopy, and then you can plant, melons and stuff growing on the ground, and you can be producing more fruit in a smaller space. These are some figs. We grow a lot of different varieties of figs. The panache fig is the tiger stripe one. It's probably our favorite. It tastes kind of like strawberry jam. Some citrus on the left. This is a sumo orange, probably my favorite type of orange. And then some peaches on the right. And then here's some sources of nurseries that I've used in the past. So a lot of the more rare stuff you can get online on places like Plantagram, Etsy, eBay. Wildlands Plants is a friend of mine from Santa Cruz that has an online nursery. Planting Justice is a great nursery in Oakland. If you don't know about them, they're an awesome nursery. You should Google search them, check out their YouTube video.
Where did you get the Sumu orange?
I got that at Trees Outlet. This is a picture from Trees Outlet. They're in like South Sacramento, it's on Gerber Road. The guy's name is Richard. If you look on maps for Trees Outlet or Google search, you'll find it. They have, Trees Outlet probably has the biggest selection of fruit trees I've ever seen in my life. And a lot of their trees are like fruiting already. Some of the citrus, like these big ones, are gonna be a little more expensive, but they sell everything. A lot of rare stuff, a lot of common stuff, and it's cheaper than Green Acres. It's a small business, it's not some big corporation, and then Fair Oaks Boulevard Nursery is another local nursery. I found like pawpaws and white sapote, some of the other cool rare stuff I found at Fair Oaks Boulevard Nursery. And then this is a quote that I wanted to end it with. It says, the greatest change we need to make is from consumption to production, even if on a small scale in our own gardens. If only 10% of us do this, there is enough for everyone. I love that quote. Yeah, I'll open it up to questions.
Is this up on the web?
I'll post it on my YouTube channel. It's called Fair Oaks Tropiculture.
What's your YouTube channel?
I'm on Instagram and YouTube. It's Fair Oaks Tropiculture. So it's like tropical and agriculture mixed together. Tropiculture.
Do you cut back your bananas in the winter after they die back?
No.
Or do you just let the leaves?
So
do their
you don't
thing?
want to cut the leaves off because they're gonna the leaves are gonna die. So it's gonna look terrible, but it's gonna insulate the plant from frost. So you want to leave all the leaves through winter, and then in the spring when they start to grow, then you cut off all the old foliage.
I have a couple Java bananas in my front yard I planted last year, and they're already 10 feet tall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
but no fruit yet.
Cool. Fertilize them a lot.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions?
It's not a question, but just a way, if you want to use your laundry water, bananas are a great way to use that, it's got a lot of residual nutrients from the detergent. As long as you're not using any bleaches or chemicals.
Definitely. They'll take whatever you can throw at them.
Your star fruit plant, did you start that one from seed or you bought that from?
I bought that one in LA at Mimosa Nursery. Drove it back up here.
I've done that with San Diego stuff before.
Yep.
Okay,
Done that a few times, yep.
thanks.
So I thought you looked familiar from, now I know why.
Safeway?
Yeah.
The meat guy?
Yeah, so do you help, in the other section too, fruits and vegetables and all?
No.
You guys
At
have a
work?
pretty good selection there, actually.
Yeah.
So, okay.
No, I don't. I got into the meat business when I was like 18 years old, and so Yeah.
Great place to get the seeds to grow up.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
And then how long have you been doing this?
So we moved to Fair Oaks in 2019. Before that, I lived in my in-laws house for a long time, and I was just growing like veggies and stuff in their yard. And I started growing the fruit trees more like in 2020, 2019. But yeah.
So we have a big community garden back in the far corner.
Okay.
Of the Grange property, and we have, a lot of fruit trees that have been donated to us and all that kind of
Awesome.
stuff, so.
Very cool.
I might be hitting you up a little bit on.
Yeah, I'd love to help in any way I can. We've,
You're welcome to come to our work day on April 26th. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, definitely here.
Have you had any luck growing things in containers? Cause I don't really wanna give up the space for a fig tree, but I have one that is started from little and it's getting about this big now, and I don't know if I go up in container size, if I'll get fruit or.
Yeah, you will. Is it from seed or is it a cutting? Do you know, or did you buy it as a tree?
It was a volunteer from a squirrel.
Yeah, that'll probably take a while to fruit. You can graft it, and then it'll fruit a lot sooner. And then also, figs can have like male and female. Also, sometimes you won't get fruit, so
Yeah.
it's probably best to graft it, and then
Graft it from
probably.
what?
Huh?
Graft it from what?
You would take another fig that's like a known variety. There's many fig varieties out there, so you would take a branch from that and then graft it to the seedling. And I have a friend on Instagram, is Chato9B, and he's from Sacramento, and he kind of searches out rare fig varieties and sells scions and stuff that you could use to graft. But yeah, you can fruit them in pots. Yep. The biggest problem would be though that it's a seedling. You'd probably need to graft it.
And I have grafted before, so that's a good idea.
Awesome.
All right, thank you so much, Vince.
Thank you.